Hello and welcome everybody back to our live stream. My name is Jasmine and I have a very special host with me tonight. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Cricket Song. I'm a pagan.
If you don't know who Cricket Song is, you're missing out.
Oh, thank you. I do have a YouTube channel, so.
Tonight we are talking about social media and witchcraft. So, what do you think of that?
Like just in a broad aspect, like
Yeah.
I think it can be a good thing, and like anything else, I think there are negatives to it too. But in a general sense, I think it can be a positive thing, having social media and having the ability to connect with people from other countries, other cities, other cultures. I think it's a good thing,
Right. I mean, we connected. And I will say this. When I was coming into witchcraft, I feel like, let me say this. When I was coming into calling it witchcraft, you were one of the first channels that I found. And at that time, it was a very Wicca central, right? But like, I've always kind of saw you as like an auntie in the craft. And you've been on social media like for a while and like sharing your practice and sharing your opinions. And I think that's really valuable. And that's why I wanted to have you on this episode to talk about social media and the craft, because like, I think in some ways, social media is a good thing for the craft. And in some ways, I think that it's toxic. And I just kind of wanted to hear, like, how do you think social media is positive for our witchcraft community? And how do you think it's negative?
Yeah, well, I think, like I said, I think it being positive, it helps us connect with people that we might not otherwise be able to connect with, like you and I. I've also met some really wonderful people through social media that I consider friends. Some of the people I've actually had the opportunity to meet in real life. Some of them I've never gotten to meet in real life, but we've created a very close magically working relationship because we met on social media. So I think in that sense, and I also think being able to have access to information that you also might not be able to have access to is a positive thing too. Not only through videos and podcasts and things like that, but you can access books that you might not have had a chance to access, in your local library. I found books that you can get PDFs, or you can have access to sacred texts that I would not have found otherwise. So I think in that sense, it's a positive thing.
Well, and I think too, going back, like growing up, my generation was the last generation to grow up without the concept of the internet. Like when I was in high school, dial-up was a thing. Okay. Like when I was in high school. So like before the internet, like how did witches connect? Like that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, I know. When I was in high school, dial-up just came out. I remember being in school before dial-up. I remember discovering dial-up, but at that time I didn't consider myself pagan or a witch. So I came into witchcraft in my adult life, so I don't know how people connected.
I remember like trying to call my crush on like the landline, but like my dad was on the internet, so I couldn't make the call. Like it's a crazy time. And then like we lost like Witch Fox, and is there really a replacement for it? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. You and I talked about that recently, that, when I ran a coven, people found me through Witchbox.
So can we talk about online covens?
Yeah.
Can we talk about it if you don't mind?
I don't mind.
Do you think that joining an online coven is helpful or harmful?
I think just like an in-person coven, it can be helpful, or you can find a group that is harmful. I think it's I think it's in my opinion, because I was part of an in-person coven and I was part of an online coven. I think it's a little more difficult to connect with people online, like authentically connect. But it can be done. And when getting a group of people together who practice magically online, it can be really intense if you have a group that's completely dedicated to what you're doing. But it can be done. It can be done. I've done it. So.
And you've also done in person too.
Yep. Yep.
So how do you think your online versus in person differs, if at all? Like
it did differ. It did differ. It did differ. I think the biggest difference is with the online coven, you really needed to be able to focus and have a very strong personal practice to then be able to connect with others. I think it's a little easier in person to not be so committed to your personal practice if you're meeting consistently with the group. So our coven met weekly. We met every moon day, and sometimes twice a week if there was a Sabbat or an Esbat, a full moon, if it didn't fall on our regular meeting night. So at least I would meet with these people every week in person. So if they didn't have a strong personal practice, it wasn't that much of a big deal because we were meeting every week. The online coven, because we weren't meeting together every week, we all really needed to have a strong personal practice to be able to then focus on what were we doing as a group. So I think it takes a little more concentration and a little more dedication and a little more effort to connect online than it was in person.
Well, and I think a lot of witches shy away from the whole online thing, like in general. Which here or there, right? Like, but what I would like to hear from you, Cricket, is what have you seen in your time? And I say this like respectfully because I love you, but you've been on social media for a long time. You have 50,000, 60,000, 70, I don't know how many people watching you, right? Like you are a pillar of this YouTube witchy community. You are, like, whether you like to see yourself as that way or not, like you are. So what changes have you seen as media has come alive, like between YouTube, even let's start with YouTube. Let's start there.
Sorry, my dog's barking. YouTube is where I most prominently am present. I mean, I am on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, but I spend my majority time on YouTube. So I know what's going on the other outlets, but I've seen a lot of changes in YouTube over the time. I feel like, at least for me, and this is just from my perspective, the community was closer or at least I knew more of the witches back in the day, even if I didn't necessarily have a personal relationship with them. I knew of them and they knew of me, and I'd send messages to them and they'd send messages to me. I feel like just the whole community has changed. I feel like, and to be fair, some of us people who have been on for a long time sort of fade out and new voices come in, and that's a wonderful thing. But I don't feel like the community is as personal as it once was. I feel like it's really more of a sales platform where people sell their wares, sell their services. There's a lot of aesthetics, which everyone loves a nice, beautiful altar. But I feel like back in the day, we really saw more personal practice and there was less concern about aesthetics. People would just pick up their phone or their camera and just start recording. They weren't worried about an intro or an outro. They were just sharing their experiences. And I think now it's different.
It looks good. I'm good. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
It's okay.
I think that witchcraft has very much become, how can we sell it? Like, it's about the aesthetics of witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to name names, right? I'm not going to name names about nobody on here, but there are some channels that are catered towards the aesthetics. So what would you say? Like, what even is witch aesthetic? Like, what is that? Like, do we call that like goth girl? Like, is that like, what is that? I don't know. Like, I see a lot of people on YouTube complaining, a lot of witches on YouTube complaining about like the witchy aesthetic, but like, what really is that? Like, cute goth girls with pentacle earrings and like pentacle thigh highs and dyed black hair and nose rings, and like, what even is that? I don't know.
I think it depends. I think some witches have more of a, country cottage type of aesthetic. I do think some of the witches have that goth girl, emo aesthetic. And then I think you may have some that are just stereotypical practical magic kind of look.
But the funny thing, Cricket, is that we're both witches,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and we don't fit those stereotypes. Mm-hmm. Like, we're witches because we are. Like, mm-hmm. We're witches because who we are, but also what we do.
Yeah.
Per Becoming Witch. Check out that book, you guys, if you're listening. Please check out Becoming Witch. It is a really good read. I have a review of it on my channel. Like, definitely check it out. It's worth your time. Okay? It's worth your time. But no, I bring that up because I feel like this whole witch aesthetic, like, witches look like you and me. Witches look like the girl who rings your groceries, who cleans your teeth, who cuts your hair, mm-hmm. like your surgeon, like mm-hmm. the person who does your oil change could be a witch. Like, we are all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Are we not?
We are. Your next door neighbor.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So, in terms of YouTube, you feel like the witchy community used to be much more close-knit. What do you think happened? Like, I know we're live, so we can't like spill too much tea, of course, because we're women of character, if you will. But what do you think happened? What could you say in like the YouTube witchy community that made this change to where it wasn't as close? Do you think it was purely aesthetics? Do you think that it was monetization? Do you think it was monetization? Like,
I think it was the change in the YouTube platform itself. I think a lot of individuals got frustrated with all the changes that were happening. I do think the ability to do those video responses where it actually linked the video response to the video, I think that really helped to create a community. Now you can do a video response, but if the other person doesn't see it, then they don't see it. I know I've had people do video responses to my videos, and I never even knew it until like a year later when I'm scrolling through YouTube. Oh my God, this person responded. I didn't even know. So I think just the YouTube itself, the way it's formatted changed, and I think that helped people decide to leave YouTube. I also think that, and we see this happen every so often, drama within the YouTube community. This YouTube witch is with this YouTube witch, and then it just explodes to then you have rifts within the community. This person won't talk to this person because they're friends with this person who's fighting with this person who's cursing this person, whatever. I think you end up getting separations in that way. So I think it's not just one thing. I think it's a culmination of different things happening.
yeah. So what do you think about TikTok?
I think that it definitely has a place. I think the ability to make very short videos with quick information, I think is a positive thing. I think the bad thing is that individuals who are taking that information and that's it and not going deeper with it can be a hindrance for those individuals. If that's all they want to know, then that's all they want to know. But I think you'll miss out on some really good information that you can get like on YouTube, on a YouTube video where you can go long and deep into a topic. You know what I mean? So I think TikTok is sort of like a taste and YouTube can be a meal. I think.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. What do you think about Twitter?
I'm on Twitter, but it only links like YouTube video coming up. I've never really spent a lot of time on Twitter. So.
Okay. Dare I say MySpace?
Oh my God. I remember MySpace when it first came out. And actually, I got in serious trouble over something I posted on MySpace.
Oh.
Like work trouble. When I was working in the financial area, I was in banking. I posted something and I got called into HR. Yeah.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay. So in witchcraft and social media, like people are sometimes shy to come out with their witchcraft on social media because of ramifications from their jobs or from their families. Like maybe they're not public witches. Like, what do you think of that?
I just think you have to be aware that whatever you post on social media is going to be seen at some point by someone you don't want to see it.
Forever.
They're going to see it. You can't, even if you delete it, it's really not deleted. So just be careful, like it can come back to you in ways you didn't think it ever would,
Yeah. So Levi says, witch talk is interesting. Yeah, it is. I see a lot of UPG on witch talk. And like, I think that UPG is needed for our practice. Like, you need to have some UPG. But some of these folks are just taking it to a whole other level. Like,
you can find that on YouTube though too. You can find that.
But I think TikTok is a different breeding grounds.
Yeah, I don't spend too much time on TikTok, but maybe it's because and this is just, my opinion. Maybe it's because of the age group that is drawn to TikTok. Maybe, like, although I follow some older people on TikTok, I think the majority is the younger crowd. Maybe, I don't know.
So, like, how do you think social media can be beneficial for a witch?
Well, like I said, I think you have the ability to connect with people you would never connect with, and you have access to information you maybe would not have access to, depending on where you live and how accessible certain books are. I think, is it sacred texts? I found so much information on sacred texts, if they're still around, that I wouldn't have found otherwise if I didn't have access to it. And, once in a while you get those wonderful websites like Witchfox, which was so handy when it was around.
Where is the replacement?
I don't know. I wish I knew. If you ever find it, you let me know, Jasmine.
Oh, I'm looking for it. Because I'm all about social media and the craft. And I think that there's a lot of ways that we can use social media as witches to our benefit. One way is spells.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a lot of witches think that you should not show your spells live. I agree, but I also think that if you do your spell in the modern way, you can use the viewers who are viewing your spell to feed your spell in maybe like a vampiric way. What do you think of that?
Oh, I agree. I also think, depending on what type of spell you're doing and how many people you want to affect with your spell, you can use social media. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I have.
Of
Like,
course. Of course. I have to.
I mean, if you're watching our magic, like, it's for real.
Yeah.
And you're feeding our spells,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
just
yeah.
like I said, whatever you put out there is going to be out there, even if you've deleted it
Forever.
So if you're a witch and you understand that, you would be cautious about what you're putting out there, because just because you don't want so and so to know something, I mean, it's out there. You put it out there. If I'm going to use it against you, that's your fault because you put it out there.
Yeah. For sure. But also, I think like people watching are fueling it.
Of course they are, even if they don't want to. If they're putting their attention on something, it's just like what we do. When we want to manifest something, we put attention on it. It becomes a point of focus and we put our energy into that. So if I'm watching something, I'm giving it my energy willingly, whether it's a TV show or someone's live stream.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a lot of energy you can harness right there.
Side. Yellow. Lache. I'm trying to get him to come on camera. Yellow. Lache. Step over it. No, step over. Yeah. Step step over. No, come here.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, Mackenzie. Pulling them down on me.
Anyway, so I wanted to show my cousin's side on camera. Like, because people online are weird, you know? So this is sad.
Mr. Fall.
Exactly. Wallahi. Exactly. So Livy, he is shy. You are shy.
Cutest smile.
Right.
Aw.
Thank you, Kenzie. Oh, thank you, roommate.
So anyway, social media, witchcraft. I don't know. What more do we have to say about it? Like it's good, it's bad, it's helpful, it's harmful. Like,
yeah, if you're taking someone's UPG as fact, that could hinder your own practice, right? So if you watch someone who talks about whatever deity that they're working with or worshiping or working with, and you take everything they say as fact and not their own UPG, then it may hinder your relationship with that deity. So, I mean, in that way, it can be detrimental to someone. But if you understand that everything that they're sharing and even if they don't say it's UPG, just like every book you read, you're not going to take that author's words as 100% the truth and nothing else is a possibility. I would say the same thing, whether you're watching a TikTok or you're watching a video on YouTube or whether you're reading someone's blog. Don't take everything as 100% truth and that's just the way it is.
no, I agree completely. And I think a lot of people take authors' writings as fact.
I agree.
So, hello, Yosef. Hello, Solavi. Hello, Tara and Witchery. Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Yeah, we are playing chess, and the other girls are just playing checkers.
Yeah. There's been a lot of times where I personally have posted things on my Facebook story or my TikTok intentionally for a reason. And people have like reached out to me and been like, oh my God, are you okay? Oh my God, what's going on? I posted that for a reason, Sierra is there. I posted that for a reason. Because when you feed that post energy, Alondra says, just because someone's opinion is different from yours doesn't mean it's wrong. We can learn from each other, but the bullying and cancel culture needs to stop. It's causing more harm. So I think that cancel culture personally, has a place. Like some people do need to be canceled. But I agree at the same time that, perfect example. This is my cousin's side, right? I've had white girls on TikTok with blue hair and septum rings tell me that I'm culturally appropriating my own culture, and here's Said, my cousin. So I agree, but I disagree. What do you think?
Like I've said, and I have a video coming out on cultural appropriation. I think
it's a touchy topic.
I think it's dangerous for people just to go around and point fingers at other people and say that you are culturally appropriating something when you can't judge a book by its cover. You can't look at someone and just decide what culture they're from. And because they are from this culture, in your opinion, they're appropriating things from another culture when you don't know what culture they're coming from. So how can you decide that they're appropriating something that could in fact be from their own culture?
Exactly.
It's like a witch hunt, calling someone something that they're not, or just assuming because of how they present they're from a different culture that you think they're not from. I think that's dangerous when we start going around doing stuff like that.
I do too. And I also think like it's not helpful.
No, it's not.
Like it's not helpful.
No.
Joseph asks, I just joined, but any advice for new content creators?
Jasmine.
What advice do you have, Cricket?
Be authentic, because people can tell when you're not being authentic. And just share things with the understanding that it's always going to be out there. So if you go in with authenticity and understand that whatever you put out there is going to be out there forever, then I think you'll be okay.
I would say, because I've been on social media since I was 18, like, we've been out here. And I was on social media before I was on YouTube. Wallahi. So, you know, I've been a content creator for a long time, about 10 years. Not always on YouTube. And whatever you put out there, like Cricket said, is permanent. It's permanent. There's no taking it back. Okay? So, regardless of what kind of content you're making, it is permanent. And alhamdulillah, I did not have TikTok when I was 14.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Because if I had TikTok when I was 14, 15, 16, girl, messy. Like, I am thankful that I do not. Alondra says, I agree with Cricket Song. And I love that Jasmine keeps it real. I try to keep it real. I really do. People say that I don't keep it real, but like, we try to keep it real, you know? Tarot and Witchery says, I lived on the reservation with medicine people. They gave me so much. You would be hard pressed to look at my exterior and know I had been gifted with culture. Right on. So Lavie says, social media didn't exist, thankfully, when I was 18. Right? Like, I am in the generation that grows up with social media. So my grandchildren, theoretically, won't know a life without it. Like, what a weird fucking world to live in.
Yeah,
like,
my children don't know life without social media. My children do not. They grew up with it.
And I think social media can actually really benefit witchcraft in the ways that I've talked about, like with spells, for instance. Like, I have a lot of people who are like, oh no, Sahara, like, yeah, don't post spells on social media. Like, you should not do that. Why not? Why not? Because they're feeding the spell the energy, right? Because they're watching it.
I think it, like we talked about, I think it depends on what your intention of the spell is. I mean, because personally, there are certain spells that I do that I wouldn't share with anybody. You know, it's personal. It's for, you know, maybe someone that I don't want to share the information with. But I think I would also share certain spells with certain people, knowing that they would feed it and work with me. But if I'm being if it's a very generic spell and it's not very specific, why not? Like you said, why not?
Well, I've definitely shared non-generic spells on my channel personally. Check out my lengua video, my cow tongue lengua video. Bring death upon your enemies. I've shared a lot of like left-hand path baneful spells because like no one else is, Cricket. Like
Exactly.
no one else is showing the work. And like that's what I want to see is like show me what you're doing. Show me how to make the cake.
Mhm.
Show me how to make the pie.
Well, what I mean is there is certain spells like fertility spells for, a friend. I wouldn't show that. That's something that I'm working with that individual with, and they're very vulnerable with it. So that's something I probably would not, and I have not shown. But there are general spells. I mean, yeah.
Joseph says, what are some ways you guys meld magic and content creation?
I mean, like you suggested, showing your work. I have a playlist of spells that I've done.
I would say whatever spells you choose to share online, keep in mind this. There's the physical realm, the digital realm, the astral realm. Okay? There's 3 different worlds. And you want the digital to line up with the physical. So when you're making your spells as a modern witch in 2022, you can't ignore the digital. Like some witches think like, oh, fuck that, blah, 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 blah. You can't. You can't. Sijeras can't. Like, you can't. You have to include it.
Yes.
Exactly. So in your spell, I would say a spell's a spell. A seria is a seria. Period. Sihera, sihera. Right, exactly. That's my cousin's side. So I would say, like, just include in your petition that anyone who sees your spell, their energy by watching it feeds it. And that's on psychic vampirism. Period. Georgina says, I have heard people say not to share your spells that you have done because it can be given bad energy. Once again, if you're going to share spell work online, include in your petition that anyone who sees it, their energy feeds it. Do you agree, Cricket?
Yeah, I mean, and you can also say things like those who are not aligned with the intention of the spell will not see it. I mean, you could even, it's invisible to those that are not aligned with it if you're worried that people are going to send you bad energy for it. I would that people who are not aligned with the spell anyway are not going to watch it. They're not going to.
And if they do watch it, they're watching it for a reason. And I haven't talked about this publicly, but I think vampirism in the craft is a whole tea. Like, I think most witches are vampiric. I think most empaths are vampiric. Like, if you absorb the energy around you, if you use the energy around you, is that not vampirism? Maybe that's a whole other episode. But like, I feel like
that's a whole different.
But I feel like it's true. I feel like a good witch, a good sahira, takes the energy around them and uses it and manipulates it to their benefit. Do you agree, Cricket? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think a successful witch does use whatever energy is available. I don't know if I would include vampirism in that though. For me, I think it's a little different flavor. But I don't know. I'd have to
Can
really,
we?
I'd really have to
Okay.
think about that before I really stated
So could we have a vampirism episode? Because I think it needs its whole own thing.
Yeah.
Like on a Wednesday, maybe.
Sure.
You know.
Know what she said?
Hi, Lady Capiria. Lady Capiria Unk. Anyway. So Livy says
about the sharing spells on
yeah.
on a thought I just had. If you, as the witch who are casting the spell, if you're afraid that if you share the spell online, that people are going to send you bad energy or it's going to affect it, if you have fear about that, then you probably shouldn't be sharing it, because then you're opening yourself to the influence of being, accepting that fear. So if you're going into it with fear, then maybe you should reconsider sharing it.
Well, and what's that quote by Anne Rice? Like, they forgot the first rule to live in beauty and power and without fear or without regrets, whatever the fuck it's called. Without regrets. I don't know. You guys. I've had a couple of these surges, so forgive me.
I'm gonna.
So yeah, if you're doing, but that's
Anyway, sorry.
that's okay.
Special ass motherfucker.
So if anyone says anything, fuck them.
Period.
Period. We're gonna do so Sylvie, we're gonna do a whole episode. I hope so. I would love to have Cricket back on my channel to talk about vampirism from Anne Rice to the modern day, like vampires, werewolves, witches, sihiras, the in-between, like
Shaitana.
Shaitana, me fue leque, bitira. I feel like there's some overlap. Like, I personally identify with the label witch, but I also identify with vampire too. Like, I do. And I think even amongst the witchcraft community, like, vampire is a slur, very much so. Like, oh, you're an energy vampire. Yeah. What do you think of that?
Of what?
Vampirism.
Oh. I don't know. I don't have an opinion really. I've had friends in the past who identified as psychic vampires and sanguine vampires.
I would love to have a whole episode about that with you. And maybe we can talk about like folklore too, like vampiric folklore and psy-vamps and sanguine vamps. Like, I personally feel more both. I mean, I've since sanguine. You can go back in the records when we talk.
Oh. Okay. We lost our host. Okay. Are we still live? I don't even know if we are still live. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Whoopsie. Hopefully she comes back, because I don't think I can end it. I mean, I can leave, but I don't think I can end the show. Wow. Okay. What I was going to say about our vampire empaths also being vampires, I actually think there is a symbiotic relationship between the empath and the psychic vampire. I don't think they're one and the same, but I do think there's a symbiotic relationship between the two, where I see it as the empath being the donor to the vampire, the psychic vampire, where, the empath gives or donates the energy to the psychic vampire, who then, siphons the energy from the empath. But I'm sure we'll get more into that when we do that episode. Jasmine, are you coming back? I don't know what to do. Oh, she's actually calling me. Hold on. She's going to try to come back into the show. Because I muted it when she called, you should be able to hear me now. Can you hear me now? I did mute it for the call. She's going to try to get back in. Take it away. Yeah. Okay. Vampires since the age of 10. I'm 50. I've loved vampires too. Oh, here she is. Yay!
I'm back. I'm back. I'm so sorry. My phone died.
Oh,
For the second that we talk about vampirism,
right.
my
right.
phone dies.
Of course.
What a bizarre turn of events. The collective energy overpowered everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, like, shame on the iPhones for making the headphone jack and the charger port the same port.
I know.
If someone wants to send me, like, what do they call it? Like, in your air.
A
I'm on
Bluetooth.
live, fool.
A
If
Bluetooth.
someone wants to send me, like, earphones, AirPods.
Yeah. These.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have those.
My
I'm
son
poor.
got it.
I just have these. But yeah, I would love to have Cricket Song back on the channel to talk about vampirism and witchcraft. Like, are you down for that?
I'm down.
Earpods, iPods, earpods, whatever. I don't know, you guys. Like, I am so technologically illiterate. I don't know. It's good to see you, though, Georgina. So, social media and witchcraft. Any closing thoughts, Cricket?
It can be good. It can be bad.
Yeah, same. So use it to your benefit because it's not going nowhere, though.
Right. Right. I agree.
Well, thank you all so much for joining. Georgina, Betwixt Between, Sabrina, who else? Luna Sarah, Sylvie, Star Ruby, Alondra, Kelvin, who else? Timothy. Thank you all so much for joining. Hey, Taya. Thank you. And thank you for meeting my cousin, Sad. Sad. Yalla. Say hi one more time to my friends. Say marhaba.
Marhaba. Assalamu alaikum. Peace. God.
Exactly.
I can't hear you. I don't know if. Oh, there we go. No. Oh, there you go.
Now
Yeah.
you can hear me.
Yeah.
This Friday I'll have Kelton on the channel. So tune in.
That should be a good.
I'm excited. Like, and they responded back. Like, it's exciting. But yeah, you guys, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday. Tune in. It'll be fun. So we're going to close this up. Thank you all for joining. Cricket, thank you for coming on and putting up with my foolery and like the fact that I'm at my cousin's house and like.
Bye, everyone.